Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. I don't know if it's my feed or my dirty camera. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm going to give it a few minutes for everyone to get logged in here. If you are joining me, if whoever is logging in, I see you starting to show up on the other end there. Please, if someone could let me know if you see and hear me, and I'll get going on my ramble here shortly. Okay, I'm a little bright for my own eyes. And we're going to share this in Facebook land. Thank you for joining me. Just sharing this out to, of course, the VIP group. If you are joining me and you can see and hear me, somebody on the other end, let me know. I'd appreciate it. Please stand by and be patient with Debbie. Perfect. All right, and Bob's your uncle. Okay. Well, it feels like I was here just yesterday. I was here. Saturday was awesome. Betsy, my girl, nice to see you again. You can see and hear me. Thank you for being my Vanna White and assisting me. I am going to, where's my lip balm? I forgot my lip balm. Oh, I have lip balm. Today is actually, it wasn't a well-planned in advance, but I had such a good response to my upper body session last week. I thought, why not? Even though I know Amber has covered it at nausea, and I know Roseanne has covered it in a number of her sessions. And Roseanne does some really good, like if you want to follow workouts, if you're a morning person, I recommend checking out Roseanne. You're going to see someone else back in full force, kicking ass this week. Amber's going to be back with a number of sessions. If you haven't looked on the event page, under the main Lifepro group, I suggest you do so. Not the VIP group. Go into the events on Lifepro Fitness page, and you'll see Amber has bombed and set up a number of sessions this week. Today is kind of a specific session. Most of you that have purchased a vibration plate have gotten included resistance bands. And if you don't use resistance bands or exercise for purpose regularly, which is totally my wheelhouse and why I got into these machines in the first place. I got into it for other reasons, but I still like to work my arms. And I don't do enough sessions with the bands. They're probably one of the first add-ons years ago, decades ago, that were included with a vibration plate. I'm going to go over how to use them, and I'm going to give you a few exercise examples of things you can do with your plate today. Miss Wilson is back on the western side of the country after a horrendous ordeal with Air Canada. Thank you. I'm glad you're back home safely. Hi, Pat. Awesome. For those of you that are just joining me, I invite questions. I will, however, field those towards the end of my rambling today. Today we're going to talk specifically the resistance bands, and depending on which Lifepro model you received, what I sometimes, my feline has joined me. Do you want to go outside? Come on, feed it. Well, I guess she's hanging out. Depending on which model you have, some of the Romblex models have additional inclusions, and I'm going to talk about those last. But the main style of bands that come with Lifepro's models are two. The strappy with the handles loop bands, And then the other bands, all the rainbows of colors. And each of these, they're like a big fat elastic band. They're completely one continuous circle. They each represent different amounts of resistance. So you see the black ones, they say heavy. Oh, I have it upside down. Okay, the blue one is also heavy, but notice dots. So these are a heavy duty, like top of the line, 4 out of 4 dots. Think like a dark roast coffee, dark roast, heavy. This is heavier resistance, a little less than the black. This is medium, the red. It's got 2 little tabs. And then we've got light. Hard to see that on the yellow, but 1 dot. So depending on, you know, what type of exercise you're doing, what your level of conditioning is, you know, Lifepro has included these with most models and the loop bands to give you a little bit of variety, because you know what? They know that not everybody can get down on the ground right off the bat. And sometimes while we get curious about the bands is, you know, maybe you are restricted to some seated use, or maybe, you know, you want to mix up what you've been doing, or maybe, you know, you're able to stand and do squats and things like that, but you're not quite comfortable getting down on the ground and doing direct positions like a push-up. Resistance bands are great for strength training exercises, but they're also very good as a functional exercise tool. So for those of you that follow me and all my chronic stuff that I talk about, maybe you're working on balance and stability. Maybe, you know, you just want to be able to pick up your groceries a little better. Maybe you want to be able to grab that soup can off the shelf. So resistance in life and in our day is anytime, you know, you're interacting with something. So I'm reaching over to pick up a weight, but my muscles are resisting the gravity and fighting back as I pick it up off the floor. A band, you know, I don't have any smart equations that tell you, you know, how much resistance on your band is, but you know whether you're putting forth effort or not. Sometimes you're using a resistance band to improve range of motion, you know, like circles with your shoulders or raises, and it's not so much a strength thing. You know, sometimes when you're working with range of motion or functional type exercises, it's about more reps and less resistance or less weight. If you're training something goal specific, you know, you may want to use your resistance bands, and you may want to add some, you know, some dumbbells to your hands. These are just a tool that can add variety, or for those of you that are lacking that range of motion or function, it gives you an ability to use your vibration plate where the range of motion and the function don't allow you, like I say, to get into those on floor or direct positions. So the most common style that I get questions about is the loop band. And you're going to lose my face for a minute, but it's important. I want to get this close to the camera. A lot of people ask about 2 things. So there's 2 basic types of these, like you see these with most machines, but there's 2 different ways that they attach. I was just in the yard and I've inhaled something. So this is the loop band style. This is the clip style. They both up this way work the same, and as far as how you adjust, which I'll get to next, but they may vary in how they attach to the platform. One is not necessarily better than the other. Some people would look at a metal clip and go, oh, that's much more robust and solid and yada, yada, and I want a clip. You know, some people are just fine with this. If you're using your straps regularly, they are what I would call a wearable, but also replaceable item. So if you're using these regularly and you started with a lot of resistance, they are an elastic band. So over time and use, they're going to lose some elasticity. They're going to lose some resistance. So you can order replacements through Lifepro. To attach them to your platform, I have the Rumblex Plus set up. On the front of most platforms, there's going to be a little tab. If there's nothing attached, I prefer these fold away style because I'm not a big fan of using the resistance bands. It's not you know, we all have our different ways that we like to train, and I prefer more direct things like the push-ups and the planks. To attach the clip style, self-explanatory, you open the clip, these metal tabs that come out, attach, Okay, it's on there. The loop band, you're basically tying a knot where you take the upper part of the band and loop it through the inner bottom circle. First, think like you're threading a needle. We're going to take the bottom looped end, feed it through the hole, pull this through, take your handle, and we're just tying a single knot through itself. Okay? Here is the biggest difference between the two bands. I ran a studio for years and 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 years. And, I'm not changing the straps, the setup, the configuration every session. It depends on the class or the person coming in. But a lot of times the older machines, the styles always had handles that you would hang on to. So I would always just, kind of hang the handles on the arms that were on the machine. So when the next member came in, they could do what they wanted. But if you didn't use the handles and you just left them attached, oops, I got this upside down now. This is what I couldn't stand. Metal, and metal makes noise. Loop band style. I'm not hearing nothing. So you don't hear it when, it's a little bit louder. So I was a vibration plate snob and only used medical grade that were worth thousands of dollars back in the day. And I thought everything had to be steel and, less was not better. I by far prefer the non-clip style because of the rattle. My personal choice, but I find they're more than annoying. So I'm going to set my Rumble X Plus up with 2 loop bands to get to I just want to give you a couple of exercise demonstrations. So now that you know how to loop the band and attach them to the plate, I want to show you, and I did a session last week on upper body, and I showed this very quickly, but I've had a few people request back or haven't had a chance to watch the session, but are joining today. So I promised I would cover it. So the upper part, as I said, these are 2 completely different brands even, but you can see that the mechanism of adjustment is identical. So with Lifepros, they're all black. It's sexier. So in the middle, you can see there's this little part that's attached. That attaches to the single coming below. To shorten, you simply take the single bottom end and push up. Okay. And then you make up the difference down there. So how tight depends on how short this part is. The opposite, or the same is true if you want to shorten them or lengthen them. So maybe you overdid it, or maybe you're doing a different type of exercise where you want some more length. So you pull, instead of the bottom end, we're going to shorten this part now. So we're just going to, you'll feel, you can see if I take this apart underneath, you just push that and you just shorten it back up. So now it's longer again. Okay, so it really depends on, are you using it seated? Are you using it standing? So there is no ideal length for every exercise that you're doing. So you're gonna learn how to adjust these pretty quick. And once you've adjusted them when they're new, they're kind of stiff and sticky a little bit. But once you've adjusted them a few times, they adjust, and once they're in place, tension stays tight. So I'm going to attach this other one. For those of you that may have missed it, we're going to thread like a needle through the hole. We're going to take the handle portion. We're going to loop it through the bottom. And, oops, there. And I can already tell you, I probably have them at different lengths because I've been playing with these. But this one, longer, will have less tension, less resistance. This one that I've shortened more is going to feel harder pulling on it. It's going to resist more. So depending on whether you are doing a seated, maybe you don't need as much room. Maybe you're standing and maybe you're 6'5", So we're going to go through a couple of basic exercises. I'm going to adjust the straps minimally, more for a visual. Otherwise, you're just going to see me sitting here adjusting straps. I'm going to shorten this one up a little bit. So we push from the bottom, and you just pull the handle. So hang on. It's so easy to adjust them, even while you're doing your session. Okay. That's about the same. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on my plate. We're going to start with just a couple of basic seated moves. Any of these that I'm doing, oh, I have to turn my machine on. So unprofessional today. Any of the exercises I'm doing are a variation, can be done seated or standing. Whether you're comfortable sitting on the plate or standing on the plate is more, where you're personally at. But the moves I'm going to show you today, I will start seated, but you can do the same movements with the straps in a standing position. If your balance is poor, if you lack coordination, the fatigue is common. If you're managing these types of symptoms regularly, I suggest learning the moves seated, because once you're standing, it adds to destabilization. So your body is normally standing here trying to stabilize, but now that you've added these straps to the equation, it's pulling you harder into the plate, but it's also destabilizing you further. So make sure, see, I almost fell on my own butt there. We're going to go with Debbie's regular approach to using the machine. There is never one way. But because I come from specializing in the plates background and the scientific side of it, I always like to talk about the two factors that control the experience and how it feels to you, which is the speed or level that you're using in combination with the amplitude, aka intensity. Amplitude, wide, more shake. Amplitude, close, less shake. This is also more or less impact. So this is going to be more relevant if you're standing, as far as how it's going to affect the upper body exercises. But for those of you that are using this seated and starting with me in this position, just position your feet about hip width apart. I want you at a mid-speed range. No, there is not an exact number. There's too many models and they each have their own ranges. But mine goes 60. So I'm going to be playing in the 20 to 30 range, or the 25 to 35 range, somewhere in the middle. And I'm sitting in a stool. I want to make sure that I have good posture. I'm not like leaning over and spaghetti arms. I'm going to have a nice straight core, nice straight spine. And we're going to start with the very first exercise. I want you holding it like your hands are, your palms are upright. And I want you to just practice pulling towards you a little bit. You're pulling back with the elbows. We're going to hit those triceps. I did this one last week. Pull. While you're pulling, I want you to be mindful of a few things. So when you're pulling, I want you to do a very even speed kind of movement. Don't jerk. Go slow. Add to the resistance. Pay attention to your posture, your form. If you go fast, sometimes you tend to lose position. Maybe a little more cardio, but pull the arm slowly. And when you're releasing, have equal control. So don't just let the arms go like this. Slow. Forward. Keep constant tension, constant movement. I like doing this one. I get a lot of tension here when I'm on the computer too much. So my head is forward, even though this is more like a stretch, because I'm like trying to pinch my shoulder blades together. I'm trying to touch my elbows together. Maybe you want to work on the biceps more. So turn the position of your hands. Simply palms up. Take your elbows and pretend that they're like hinged or duct taped to your waist. So you're just using the forearms to pull, hold, 2, 3, equal tension on the way back out. Okay? There's a million tweaks that you can do from here, but just sort of start playing, and you're going to feel different muscle groups here affected, different parts of the arms. You're going to feel strong sides, weak sides. There's going to be all these nuances. Okay? Let's try another variation. Change the wrists. Now we're palms up. Okay, our hands are this way. Same exercise. Pull back. It's almost like a bent over row. Very similar movement to that we've been doing, but just by changing the position of your hands, you feel it in different areas. I definitely feel this in the upper back, those shoulder blades. Again, slow, controlled release. Slow, controlled pull. Okay, this is a great way to start building some upper body strength. Maybe you're working on, shoulder and neck issues and core issues. So let's try a series of front raises. So these were bicep curls in a variation. So front raises, and they're kind of hard to do seated. I don't want you doing your lower back any injustice. So only do what feels comfortable and don't pull beyond what feels natural or you shouldn't. Listen to your body. So a front raise, and this is one of those examples where you might find, the straps feel kind of short. And if this is already too much for you, maybe you're just holding and releasing. Just getting those straps to a point of tension and releasing. For those of you that aren't dealing with frozen shoulder and degenerative disc and low back issues, by pulling, you can feel that low back has to anchor you. Hold, 2, 3. I want to make sure you're paying attention to the low back if you have issues. Not as much as the arms, okay? Hold, 2, 3. Again, resist on the way down. Resist on the way up. And you'll feel, I already know this one's a little shorter than it should be. So I'm going to make this one a little shorter. There. I feel less challenged on the right. Okay. You'll get to a point where you'll see little indents in your strap and you'll know your spots. Okay. This one, we're going to do the same thing we did when we were pulling the arms by our sides. We're just going to change our hand position. Tilt the wrists around. Okay, so we're now palms up. Arms are staying straight. Don't lock the arms. They should be slightly undone. I think you'll get more out of it. I don't want you wrenching your elbow. Lift, and you'll feel it's certainly in the biceps. You're feeling it in the elbows. I'm feeling it more in the mid-back. Relax. Okay. I'm not suggesting this is how slow you do them forever going forward, but I want you to learn good technique. Sometimes, like I say, once you add speed, you tend to lose your position and don't really focus on where you're feeling it. Go slow, feel what muscles are engaged. Is that where maybe you're moving out a little bit? Maybe out feels better. It really depends. The further away from the attachment point of the straps, the further you're pulling it. Okay, let's do them this way. So we're going to just palms out. I'm starting just with the straps extended, and now we're going to kind of like a fly. Hold, 2, 3, down. Really feel that in the top of the shoulders. Hold, 2, 3. If you Google resistance band exercises or seated resistance band, there's thousands and thousands. What I want you to be mindful of, because you can sit here and do this all day. I'm already 7 minutes in. If you're dealing with fatigue, lymph issues, you're a new user, all those things I lecture in my normal sessions. It's easy to overdo it. So, the beauty about the arm straps, if the legs have had enough, right, and you're just getting started, but you want to keep playing around with the straps, go for it. You don't have to have the vibration plate working for them to work, okay? So the next progression, as I said, we're going to get to a little bit of standing. When we're standing on a plate, reminder, wider is more intense, more impact. Closer is less intense, less impact. You are in control of your experience. My approach is just a little different. I prefer more speed and less intensity. I prefer more frequent sessions than longer ones. So do it more often. So standing, now the straps are obviously shorter than when I'm sitting because I'm about 5'10". Right now, they're kind of just resting at the top of my thighs. And let's do those exact same couple of exercises, but you'll feel the difference because you're taller and you're pulling the strap a further distance before you even start the exercise. Okay, so we're going to pull those elbows back. 2, 3, hold, and just release with tension. Keep tension. I find somehow when I'm standing, I almost prefer very slow, continuous movement. I think it adds a little more destabilization to the equation. You locked yourself in here, Katie, so you're sticking around. She wants to be on the machine. It's not your turn. Okay. I like doing like what I would with weights. So if I'm doing like a bent over row with my weights, if you're training to do these types of exercises, bands are an awesome way to get your form in check. Maybe you're doing some new stuff at the gym and you just, you couldn't get to the gym today, but you want to keep the workout going. Front raises, bicep curls, side raises. For those of you that go to the gym, none of these are new terms. You're just usually holding weights in your hand, which you can do on the plate. You can, if you have enough, my hands are really, really small, but you can add weights to your hands if you want to add a little bit more. What the resistance adds is, it increases that gravitational pull, just like the vibration plate does to a degree. So, depending on what muscle groups you're trying to tone, maybe you're really pushing yourself and you want to, work on some overhead raises. Oh, I know I've got the straps too short for this, but here we go, guys. Let me hear you say, yeah, yeah, hey, ho. I'm not as hip as my kids, but, play around. I like sometimes, I want more resistance, but I'm too lazy to adjust them. You can cross the bands. Do things like this. Maybe we're doing side raises, hold 2, 3, but just want them a little bit tighter. There's a bazillion variations you can do. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. And as I said, if there's an area that you're specifically looking to target, perhaps you're working with someone now as a coach that's a trainer, your therapist, they're going to be very, very helpful in getting good technique, good breathing when you're doing these types of exercises. By doing them on the plate, they take those same resistance band exercises that you would do on the ground, and they're just adding a much more total body effect. They're boosting the balance and stability, just challenging you further. So I hope that was exciting and interesting. If I were to do a workout personally, I tend to add the straps to my standing poses versus standing. I would be in a bit more of a squat position. And if, weight loss is the goal or metabolism, a little bit of still keep that resistance on, but a bit of a quicker move is going to boost the calorie level a little bit more. If you're just starting out and maybe you got more strength in the legs than you do on the arms, you're going to kind of have to gauge when to add. For my ladies, sometimes the upper body fatigues quicker than the legs do. If you're kind of at that point, maybe you start seated as a warm up or take the squat out of it and, start some of your arms and then do the final push with squats or something. I find for me, if I'm planning on doing any upper body on the machine itself, be that push-ups, planks, you can cave quickly if you want to make sure that you give plan your time on the machine, especially if you're a new user. It's really, really easy to overdo it when you're playing around, and I'm already another 5 minutes in, and I've really only shown you a variation on 2 exercises. So another way that you can use the machine, for those of you that feel comfortable enough, because of the position where the straps are attached, they're on one side of the machine. If you wanted to experiment with having them, I'm going to turn around. This right off the bat is a completely different feeling. My arms are positioned behind me. Okay. It just puts the straps at a different angle. So I want you to experiment with that too. For those of you that are doing these type of upper body exercises regularly, I'm being distracted because I keep looking at the other bands and I don't want to forget about them. So I'm going to open one of these up. I'm going to open the red one. Many of you have gotten these, and if you're dealing with grip strength issues, you got a problem with your hand, I'm not doing a good job here. When in doubt, don't use your teeth. That's what I always say to my kids. Maybe for some reason you can't hold the straps. There's a problem with your hands. You're dealing with neuropathy, or these are not exactly the same. You're not going to have the same range, but they are technically resistance bands. And just like the bands we were playing with on the machine, Technique is the way you use them is very similar. I want you slow tension and keep the tension. It's just a different way of doing it. So another, stepping away from these resistance bands, maybe this is something else that's minimal. I like these. A lot of my members will take these as a travel option. They take up absolutely no room in your suitcase. Many of you are using them around. Oh, I gotta sit down. I'm not that fancy today. Oh my goodness. Put lotion on my feet so everything's sticking. So many of you might, position them around the legs to add, obviously you can't do those with those straps, but they're a good add-on. They target the muscles in a different way. So maybe we're combining them. Okay. So now my legs are getting a little bit more, that part that wears out the jeans first, a little more resistance here, right? So if you're finding those legs are not fatiguing as quickly as the upper body is, I'll find a way to, I don't recommend this with hip and knee issues, but there's a million ways. I've shown you the ball or the yoga circle between the knees where you're holding the ball in place. This is different. You're forcing yourself to target those outer and inner thighs, resisting this way. Okay. Have some fun. Some of these inclusions, the application that I'm showing today, or what you might be reading in somebody's comment, they don't work for everybody. If you are in my big group and you are prone to bruising and things like that, many of you find these just don't work for you. They mark you, they hurt. Just because they're included doesn't mean that they're the ideal tool. It's just the kindness of Lifepro, including things like these to give you a bit of variety until you're ready to get to other things or to spice up and improve the things that maybe you're already doing. These, as I said, are included with most models. The loop bands are also included with most models. But there are exceptions to every rule. I want to talk about stationary resistance bands for just a minute. So everything we've sort of talked about is stretchy, elasticy. Okay, that's what we typically think of as a resistance band. If you have the Pro model, well, these aren't elastic, and look at this. There's a big thing of Velcro on the end. I do not have the Pro set up right now, but at the end of it, there are slots where these attach. Okay, these loop through. And what a stationary resistance band is on a vibration plate. So I'm going to stand on it just to sort of show you how this works. When you are on the plate, oops, and it's moving you, you're holding, so this is loose, you hold it till you get tension, it's attached to the end of the plate, and there's added movement because it's moving with the plate. So this is kind of I would say a little bit of an advanced resistance band for those of you that have good technique, you're working with a coach that have a clue about using bands and just the proper form, the breathing, all that I talked about. The Pro, that's kind of one of the advantages of that model. It's curved, which I generally recommend for the more athletic crowd, not for those of you dealing with chronic issues. They present a little bit more challenge, a little more resistance, similar to the red band I was showing. That's what the curve's going to give you. These added at the end, and they adjust. And there's a couple of different style of these bands, but you'll see there's markers on it. So you'll kind of, you'll get to the point where this, I like my biceps at pink or halfway between pink and blue, or, maybe I'm doing my front raises at a yellow. So this one comes with a little bit more forethought as far as, indications as to where you may adjust the Velcro straps. With stationary style straps, these were typically a little bit more associated with vertical style platforms back in the day, and they adjusted exactly like this. The fact that Lifepro has included them on a pivotal, there are medical grade oscillating pivotal machines that do offer that. But this is a really nice consideration, especially for that athletic crowd. So if, for those of you that are like, well, what's Rumble X? There's so many. The Pro does come with more accessories, and this is one of the advantages that comes with that plate. If you're looking for that athletic, that training experience, something that you can grow with. And I really enjoy using stationary straps because you're not moving, you're not really going through the motions. I really enjoy using these with some additional weights on my body. I like pushing for fatigue, hard and fast. Also with the Pro, what else have I got? Oh my goodness, I haven't looked in this bag of goodies in a long time. But there's different attachments that you can use with the stationary straps. And it does include as well the red bands as I showed and the elastic resistance ones. So that's some of the additional inclusions that come with that. Oh, she's just not giving up. Go. Thank you. She's going to meow until we're done. Outside of that, if you were wanting to add your armbands as part of your regular routine, how often, how long, like anything I discuss, it really depends on what the goals are long term. Are you just trying to work out some tension and build some range of motion and flexibility, treat some symptoms, or are you looking to tone and build? The type of exercises, the frequency, and how intense and hard those exercises are going to be is really driven by what the long-term goals are. So you can use the plate, of course, for both symptom management and fitness training. It's what you do on it that drives the benefits short, mid, and long term. So for those of you that are just using this for wellness, you're wanting to maintain or use it to complement other things, you can certainly add these whenever you're using your plate. I want to stress it's how much effort you're putting forth that kind of, there's a big gray line between the wellness and the fitness, but whether you're putting in the time. A lot of my folks with injuries or, are working with a therapist, there's usually some range of motion exercises, some resistance exercises that you're supposed to be doing at home regularly. It's way funner on a vibration plate. And essentially, you're going to need to spend less time. So thank you for listening to my ramblings on that one today. I see there's a few comments, and I just want to see who is here joining me today. And thank you if you are. I see. Okay. I said hello to Miss Kim. Hello, Pat again. Hello, Kaylee. I think I'm saying that. Callie, maybe. Alexis, hello. Irene from New Zealand, that a girl. Love seeing you. Catherine, Teresa, wonderful. I hope I'm sure today wasn't like new news, but I've had an alarming amount of questions again. And sometimes it's because, you simply made a comment and it made it, everybody else, yeah, I wanted to ask that too. So the resistance bands are certainly not something you have to do. If the goals are upper body and more total body and the range of motion or desire is limited, they're a great way to get some more targeted upper body action while you're doing your standing time. If you are rehabilitating for something, you're unable to bear your weight for long periods, it's a great way to keep some total body exercise going seated, as I started with. And there's other types of resistance bands out there, whether the ones that Lifepro has included that attach to your plate, the bands. There's lots of different ones on the market that I've incorporated on the surface of my plate. And as I say, you're only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. But for my ladies, I find with the strap work is a little bit easier to grasp or get into the habit of. You got a bad knee, you got a bad hip. Sometimes getting down on the ground isn't always appealing. And it is a weaker area for ladies, the neck, the shoulders. And sometimes, we can do squats and lunges all day long. It's when we get into upper body where the imbalance comes to the surface. So if you're wanting to do planks and you're wanting to do push-ups, but you've never done these things in your life, the straps are a really great way to just start conditioning those areas to sustain some of the other exercises that you may want to do going down the road. And the more you do, the more you improve any one body part, the more you're going to have the ability to do. And keeping the arms strong is, for those of you that do get down on the ground, know that it's never the getting down. It's the getting up. That's always more of a challenge. So you want to keep those arms strong if that's the only purpose they're serving you. But, it might be reaching the soup can out of the cupboard. It's putting your boots on before you head out the door. We sometimes take for granted our upper body until we lose the strength and the ability to use it. So whether you're having issues now or not, the more active and fluid the movements you can keep in that upper body, the more it's going to play into the independence and all that stuff later on in life. So do I have any questions from those of you in the gallery today? Hello, Karen and Connie. Thank you for joining me, guys. You may not, maybe you're here just for accountability and a butt kick, and, that's good too. I've kind of been all over the board with my session times. I did a huge open house on Wednesday night. It was enormous, over 100 comments now, and a bazillion people watched it. There's lots and lots of new users is what that tells me. And many of you, it was my 5th month, are returning. So once a month, first Saturday of the month, keep that in your mind. I usually do evening. Sometimes you're just there to be accountable and check in. It's an easy time of year to fall out of routine because you're into other activities outdoors or the garden and those types of things. So as some of you are gearing up for back to school and already in it, sometimes the straps just simply make your workout simple and more effective and quicker. And, sometimes your lifestyle, I always say, sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes that's what's going to drive how much time and how frequently you use your vibration plate. Be cautious if you have taken a big break, not to just jump back in right where you took off. Reduce in time and intensity. And if you haven't been doing upper body regularly, maybe now is the time to start. So if you are using your resistance bands, or you had a big epiphany today, please make a comment. If there's a bazillion different resistance band exercises I could cover, as I mentioned, but I hope today gave you some examples and just the confidence not only to adjust. It's still the number one question I get on the bands is, how do I adjust the length? Some of you tie knots. But if you didn't know yesterday what you do today, so now you know, and you can share that. Thank you for joining me. I want you guys to have an awesome rest of your week. It's a long weekend here in Canada today. So for those of you that are enjoying that, have fun. And I look forward to seeing the rest of you next week on something new and exciting I haven't quite decided yet. I always invite your feedback if you're watching this on a recorded basis, or if you have questions for those of you joining me after the fact. Tag me at Debby with a Y. For sure, I'll get tagged and I'll get a notification. Perhaps, this talk goes on and there's 150 comments. If you don't actually tag me, I don't always necessarily see that there's been new activity. So make sure you do that. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Don't work too hard and enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks so much, guys.